There are simple things God uses to show his power, ordinary things that become extraordinary when faith enters the room. And today, I'm going to show you how putting salt in just 5 places in your home can transform your environment, shift your atmosphere, and open doors you didn't even know were locked. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear may be exactly what God wanted you to receive before your next breakthrough. Salt is a symbol of protection, purity, and spiritual authority, and its significance stretches across cultures, faith traditions, and generations. From ancient rituals to spiritual practices still used today, salt has always carried a unique weight because it connects the physical world with the invisible realm. Its very nature speaks to its symbolism. Salt preserves, it purifies, it heals, it guards, and it strengthens. In a world filled with shifting values, uncertain environments, and unseen spiritual battles, salt stands as a quiet yet powerful reminder of stability and covenant. It represents a force that remains unshaken despite pressure, heat, or time. For centuries, people have recognized that environments, physical and spiritual, hold energy, and salt, in its simplicity, has been used to cleanse, reset, and fortify spaces against anything that does not align with peace, clarity, or divine order. This doesn't come from superstition, it comes from the deeper meaning that salt carries as something incorruptible, unchanging, and foundational. In many traditions, salt has been a sign of covenant, a symbol that what is blessed will remain blessed, what is protected will remain protected, and what is purified will remain pure. It communicates permanence. Something touched by salt becomes preserved, shielded from decay, deterioration, or spiritual contamination. When people place salt in their homes, at their doors, or in symbolic places, they aren't just performing an action, they are declaring a principle, a truth that the unseen world must respect. Salt becomes a boundary line, a spiritual marker, a statement that says, what enters here must align with peace, light, and divine presence. This is why salt has often been placed at entryways, windows, corners of rooms, or places where energy tends to settle. It changes the atmosphere, not because of mystical power within the object itself, but because of the meaning behind it, because of what it represents. Salt's purity is equally meaningful. It cannot be corrupted, diluted, or weakened without losing its identity. It teaches discipline. It teaches spiritual clarity. In its natural form, salt resists decay, and in doing so, it becomes a symbol of the soul's ability to withstand darkness, negativity, or spiritual erosion. When used intentionally, salt becomes a reminder of personal strength and spiritual identity. It silently speaks of purity in thought, speech, and action. It calls attention to what must be preserved within us, our peace, our purpose, our calling, and our inner alignment with what is good. Salt is simple, familiar, and easily overlooked, yet it carries power because its nature mirrors the qualities we strive to embody when we walk with confidence, integrity, and spiritual authority. Placing salt at your front door sets a boundary of peace, creating a symbolic threshold where anything that does not serve your well-being, your clarity, or your spiritual stability is stopped before it can cross into your living space. The front door is more than just an entryway. It is the gateway through which energy, people, intentions, and spiritual influences move in and out of your life. It is the point of transition between the world outside, filled with noise, distraction, stress, and unpredictable energies, and the personal sanctuary you call home. When you place salt at this threshold, you are declaring through action that your home is not an open field for anything or anyone to step into without accountability. You create a spiritual line that says, peace is welcome, chaos is not. Light is welcome, heaviness is not. Blessings may enter, but burdens must stay outside. Salt at the door acts as a guardian in symbolic form. In many cultures and spiritual traditions, the doorway is considered the most vulnerable place of a home because it is where external influences first attempt to make contact. It represents access, permission, and invitation. So placing salt there is not just a protective act, it is an intention-setting act. It transforms the entrance into sacred ground, a place where spiritual order is restored. The moment someone steps over that boundary, they cross into a space that has already been claimed for peace, purpose, and divine covering. Salt absorbs negativity, dull energies, and spiritual residue that might cling to people or attempt to linger at the doorstep. It clears the unseen, just as it purifies the seen, creating harmony at the very point where your inner world meets the outer one. The simple act of placing salt at the front door also strengthens your sense of authority over your own environment. Many people forget that they have the right to protect their space, to affirm what kind of atmosphere they choose to keep, and to reject anything that disrupts their peace. Salt becomes a physical reminder that your home is not just a building. It is an extension of your spirit, your heart, your family, and your intentions. It tells you every time you walk through that door that this space is governed by calmness and centeredness. It reinforces that even if the outside world is chaotic, demanding, or spiritually draining, the moment you step into your home, you are stepping into a place that has been claimed for tranquility. This creates a psychological shift, a spiritual reset, and an emotional grounding every time you enter or exit your home. Salt in room corners helps clear spiritual heaviness and stagnation by addressing the places where energy tends to settle, gather, and linger unnoticed. Corners are often overlooked in both physical cleaning and spiritual maintenance, yet they are the silent collectors of atmosphere, emotion, and the energetic weight of daily life. These hidden spaces can accumulate the residue of stress, arguments, sadness, unresolved tension, or the remnants of energy from people who have entered your home carrying burdens of their own. Just as dust gathers in corners when left untouched, stagnant spiritual energy can build up in the same way, slowly influencing the feeling of a room, even when everything appears outwardly clean and orderly. Placing salt in these corners acts as a spiritual cleansing agent, creating a subtle but powerful shift that begins with intention and resonates throughout the environment. Salt has the ability to absorb, neutralize, and transform energy, functioning almost like a spiritual sponge that draws in what does not belong. In the corners of a room, it stands guard against stagnation and heaviness that might otherwise go unnoticed. When you place salt intentionally in these hidden spaces, you are declaring that no leftover negativity has permission to remain in your space. You are choosing to refresh the atmosphere, to lighten what has felt heavy, and to release what has been silently gripping the energy of the room. It is an act that restores movement to spaces where spiritual stillness has settled in an unhealthy way. The shift may not be loud or dramatic, but it is felt gradually in the way the room begins to feel clearer, lighter, and more open. This practice also reinforces your awareness of the unseen dynamics within your home. It reminds you that your environment is shaped not only by what you can see and touch, but also by what you sense. When you place salt in the corners, you become more attuned to the emotional and spiritual atmosphere around you, noticing how certain rooms feel different after moments of stress or after carrying burdens from outside. Salt gives you the ability to reclaim control of these spaces by actively resetting them. It reflects an act of spiritual stewardship, tending to your environment with the same care you would give to your heart, your mind, or your emotions. Over time, this mindful habit transforms the corners of your home not into neglected pockets of heaviness, but into intentional points of purification where the energy is continuously renewed. Windows represent watchtowers. Guarding them guards your peace because they serve as both symbolic and literal points where outside energy meets the inside of your home. They are the openings that allow light, air, and perspective into your space, yet they are also the places where influences from the outside world attempt to slip through unnoticed. In ancient times, watchtowers were built to survey the land, to detect what was approaching from afar, and to provide protection long before danger reached the city gates. In a similar way, your windows function as spiritual watchtowers, allowing you to see what is coming toward your life while also shaping the energy that flows into your environment. When you treat them with intention, when you guard them spiritually, you create a layer of protection that filters what enters your home, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Placing salt on the window ledges is a symbolic act that reinforces this protection. It acts as a barrier that says, only what aligns with peace, clarity, and light may enter this space. Windows attract energy because they represent access and vulnerability. They are the boundaries between your inner sanctuary and the world outside. People often underestimate how much energy can linger around windows, whether from the environment, from the emotional residue of passersby, or from spiritual influences that exist beyond the visible realm. By placing salt there, you create a spiritual threshold, a barrier that absorbs, neutralizes, and filters anything attempting to enter that does not resonate with peace. The presence of salt subtly shifts the atmosphere, ensuring that the windows become conduits of light and clarity rather than openings for disturbance or emotional disruption. This practice also heightens your awareness of how your home interacts with the outside world. When you treat your windows as watchtowers, you begin to understand the power of guarding your peace on every level. It reminds you that peace is not accidental. It must be protected, preserved, and intentionally maintained. Guarding your windows becomes a metaphor for guarding your thoughts, your emotions, and your spiritual focus. It reinforces the idea that not everything deserves access to your inner world. Just as you would screen who you allow into your home physically, salt on the windows symbolizes screening what you allow in spiritually. Over time, your home begins to feel more settled, more grounded, and more aligned with calmness because you have claimed the watchtowers of your environment as places of spiritual oversight and emotional protection. Salt under the bed symbolizes protection in unseen places, reaching into the hidden areas of your life where worry, fear, and spiritual vulnerability often try to settle. Beneath the bed is a place most people never look at, a quiet, shadowed space that symbolizes the parts of life that remain unexamined. Your private fears, your unspoken thoughts, your nightly battles with restlessness or anxiety. It is where your mind drifts when the world becomes silent, where spiritual burdens sometimes attempt to cling while you are most defenseless. The act of placing salt beneath the bed speaks directly to those unseen spaces, declaring that even the places you don't consciously watch over are guarded. It represents the idea that protection doesn't stop at the obvious or the visible. It extends into the depths, the corners, and the silent spaces where the mind and spirit experience the most vulnerability. Salt beneath the bed brings a sense of spiritual grounding that helps quiet the atmosphere around your rest. Nighttime is when the mind opens, when thoughts that were buried during the day rise to the surface, and when spiritual interference tries to take advantage of exhaustion or emotional fatigue. The symbolic presence of salt adds a layer of purity and stillness beneath you, supporting your rest with a protective foundation. It absorbs stagnant or lingering energies that tend to gather in quiet, enclosed spaces. It sends a message to the unseen realm that your rest is sacred, that your peace is not up for negotiation, and that the darkness does not have the authority to approach you when you sleep. Many people underestimate how deeply the environment beneath the bed influences the energy of the room. Placing salt there helps cleanse and filter what might otherwise build into heaviness or spiritual tension. This symbolic act also represents the deeper truth that protection must extend beyond what you can see or control. Life is filled with unseen battles, situations you don't fully understand, challenges forming before you're aware of them, and emotional weights that settle quietly over time. Salt under the bed becomes a reminder that you are covered even in those hidden areas. It reinforces the belief that just because something is out of sight does not mean it is unprotected. The presence of salt anchors your space in a sense of calm, strength, and divine watchfulness, turning the unseen places into guarded spaces. It encourages deeper rest, clearer dreams, and a more peaceful atmosphere by ensuring that the foundation beneath you is spiritually fortified. The heart of the home is where unity and healing begin, because it is the space where the energy of the household gathers, where conversations unfold, where emotions are shared, and where the atmosphere of the entire home is shaped. This central area, whether it is the living room, the kitchen, or a shared family space, holds the pulse of the home's emotional and spiritual life. It is where family members connect at the end of long days, where laughter echoes, where disagreements arise and are resolved, and where the tone for the home's well-being is set. When the heart of the home is peaceful, the entire house feels lighter. When it is tense or unsettled, that tension spreads into every room. This is why intentionally tending to this space becomes so important. It is not just a physical center, it is the emotional and spiritual center, the grounding point where relationships are strengthened, comfort is cultivated, and healing can take root in the presence of love and intentionality. Placing salt in the heart of the home symbolizes a desire to purify the atmosphere where the most meaningful interactions take place. It acts as a quiet but powerful declaration that this space is meant for unity, not division, for warmth, not coldness, for compassion, not conflict. Salt absorbs lingering emotional residue, arguments that ended but left tension behind, frustrations that were expressed but not fully released, unspoken heaviness that settles into a room after long, exhausting days. When salt is placed in a central space, it works to neutralize the emotional and spiritual buildup that naturally accumulates in busy, lived-in environments. This cleansing effect helps restore clarity and ease to the atmosphere, making it easier for people to communicate with patience, to listen with understanding, and to engage with each other from a place of openness rather than frustration or stress. The heart of the home is also the space where collective intention is shaped. When you choose to cleanse and protect it symbolically with salt, you are reinforcing the idea that this is a place of refuge and connection. It becomes a reminder that healing does not always happen through grand gestures. Sometimes it happens quietly, through the energy that fills a room, through the peace that lives in the air, and through the sense of safety people feel when they enter the space. Salt helps ground this environment in emotional balance, encouraging unity by fostering a space where everyone feels seen, supported, and valued. When the heart of the home is nurtured, the entire household benefits, because the energy that flows from its center influences every corner, shaping the atmosphere of the home one quiet moment at a time. It's not the salt itself, it's faith that opens the door for God to move, because salt on its own is nothing more than a natural element, a mineral with physical properties, but no inherent spiritual power. What gives it meaning, what transforms it from an ordinary substance into a spiritual symbol, is the intention behind it and the belief within the person who uses it. Faith is the force that activates the symbolic action, the bridge that connects the physical world with the spiritual realm. When someone places salt in their home with genuine trust, expectation, and spiritual awareness, they are expressing a deeper truth that they believe God is present, that His protection is real, and that His ability to transform environments and circumstances is greater than anything the physical eye can perceive. The salt becomes a physical reminder of a spiritual principle, one that has been honored for generations. But it is the faith behind the action that makes the atmosphere shift. Faith has always been the true catalyst for transformation because it speaks directly to the unseen. It is the substance that tells God, I trust you. I believe in your covering, your direction, and your presence. That belief opens spiritual doors that actions alone cannot. When you place salt at your door, in your corners, under your bed, or in the heart of your home without faith, it is simply a ritual, an empty gesture. But when you do it with a heart anchored in belief, it becomes a declaration. It becomes an invitation for God to enter, to cleanse, to protect, and to move in ways beyond your understanding. Faith turns a symbolic act into a spiritual alignment, allowing God to work through your obedience, your trust, and your willingness to honor Him even in small things. This truth also reminds you that God does not require complicated rituals or elaborate practices to show His power. He often works through simple acts, small steps taken with big faith. The salt is merely a tool, a physical expression of an inner posture, a sign that you are creating space for God in your home and in your heart. It represents your readiness to let Him take authority over the atmosphere, your desire to keep your environment spiritually clean, and your willingness to participate in the process of inviting peace into your life. Faith elevates the act, transforming it from something symbolic into something spiritually effective. It shifts the energy of a room, not because the salt has power, but because faith has reached out to the one who does.